Yeah, so we use it just to try to, make sense of our 14-year history. Every day is different, every year is different, but this kind of simple buckets of the three eras just kind of helps us organize our thinking. The first year is really the founding era. It was from the beginning of the company, really in 2011, the three co-founders getting together and kind of settling on Nextdoor as an idea. Really up until 2018 when that leadership change took place. And the first era was about creating the product, bringing the original vision to a working product that people downloaded and used. And it worked, millions, tens of millions of people were using it. It was a real thing. I think the charter for the second era when I joined was really about a lot of the priorities was around the kind of the company infrastructure. And that's everything from a robust monetization strategy to adding core functions like finance, people, legal, IT. The era one was really very, very scrappy to the point where they had really resisted on adding a lot of these other functions, which I think a lot of startups can be too scrappy. Not necessarily, I mean, that was kind of where Nextdoor was, but you hear a lot about companies that hire too quickly, but you can also like not add enough depth to these other pieces of the puzzle. Also kind of fundraising, having a good strategy around that. Like all this type of stuff is what the second era really looked like, building up a depth in product development, expanding globally. Those are the types of things that I really think 2018 to 2023. When I joined, I had a clear point of view, but then COVID just changed everything. Work from home, disruption, the way we all work every day. We went through all that during era two as well. And so when Nirav first came back, I think the first real risk, because Nirav, and he would say this, like he'd never really run a company of more than 150 people before. And so now we were over 500. He'd never run a public company. We're a public company. So he had to have real learning velocity on how to do that. But we also had to make sure he didn't just try to make it a 100-person startup again, because that's what he kind of left, 150 people. And so we had to kind of both bring back a lot of the original founder energy from the early days while not losing the benefits of the operational capabilities we had built up in the second era. That was really kind of the early test to try to navigate. That's actually how we ended up with era three, because we didn't want to seesaw between which way is better, the early days or the second era. We had to kind of form a new vision of what the best of both worlds would look like.
And a lot of times I find that your employees want to gravitate and attach themselves to old eras, and then you have like an us versus them mentality. Daniel, we were just talking about this, I think, on a recent podcast, that these eras, you think like everyone will quickly align and focus on kind of the objectives of the current era, but you have to be really intentional about that, to your point.
Yeah, I think the founders speak with a unique voice. Like I forget who said this one time, but like it's like there's no such thing as an ex-founder. I'm ex-Google, ex-Square. There's no ex-founder. You're always the founder, right? And they could just speak with like this moral authority about what the company, what it means to exist, which is a huge benefit of having founders participate. But it's also why I think being really clear on your mission, values, like making those the statements that everyone has to rally around, can insulate you from what you're talking about, Steven, which is people kind of going, back in my day, it was much better. Or no, you all were terrible in the early day. Like we fixed that. Like that's really toxic, right? And so when you can come up with these shared statements of what your identity is, which is what mission and values are, that I think is a better path forward.